What up, everybody? We want to introduce you to a special guest today on today's Built Different podcast. A dear friend of mine, man that's always willing to help me out. A guy that I kind of I admire, but also too I kind of had almost a I won't say envious experience as a fan, but he's gotten to see things at a level that I think every fan would want to in professional boxing, and comes from a family like that just has extensive background in a sport that all of us on this call love. So, wanted to introduce you to Estado Altidor. Like I said again, amazing guy, great friend, very knowledgeable individual. But yeah, Estado, if you don't mind, like telling everybody a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do, and just a little background on yourself and who you are.
Oh man, first and foremost, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for the invite. Always willing to answer questions, just to have that open conversation and talk about, what brings us together, and that is, the sport and our love for the sport. A little bit about myself. I come from a family of fighters. We've been doing that from childhood, grade school. Um, Uncle, he was in one of the first UFCs, probably the first UFCs. He's a pioneer in the MMA movement. His kids, they've all ranged from mixed martial arts, boxing, collegiate wrestling, and so on. Myself, I've also did a few combat. I started off in mixed martial arts, moved on to boxing, um, went to training, and just getting my feet wet within all the amateur and professional athletes.
No, that's cool, man. I didn't even know you that you were a participant. Also, I know you had the family ties and everything, but that's cool as well that you got in there and you did it, and mixed martial arts. You know what I mean? Like not just boxing.
Oh yeah,
So that's pretty cool.
that's the ground roots for everybody. Everybody in our family, we started off with mixed martial arts, then branched out with what we felt like was our cup of tea.
Yeah, that's you don't wanna mess with your family. You know what I mean? Like that's a family gathering. You don't want to be breaking up or anything. You know what I mean? Get your ass whooped up there at the park. um, so speaking a little bit about we talked a little bit. You gave us like a synopsis of the family and everything, and you're dabbling in the sport. What made you pursue a degree in sports and exercise science at UCF and human performance at UCF? What was the interest level there?
Oh man, the interest level. You can't get bored with sports. I was just trying to find a career, a degree that I felt like I wouldn't get tired of. And so, I'm
Hmm.
just looking at them like, well, I'm always watching sports. I'm always reading about sports, specifically combat, of course, but, sports in general, I'm always interested in. Um, Not just that, I'm like, all right, so what can I do? What can individuals do to perform at the highest level? Max out their performance, just be the best that they can be. So just looking in different areas, and also, I didn't. I don't think I ever mentioned this. I was also looking for something that I can pivot in with pre med because I wanted to do orthopedics. So I thought
Oh,
that was just a perfect way of doing it. Orthopedic. You got the joints, muscles, ligaments, and everything. So sports medicine, exercise science, it all just went with each other. So that's why I chose it.
oh, awesome, awesome. So I know you touched on it a little bit, but what was it like growing up in with a family of fighters, like everybody kind of dipping their toes in different combat sports? Was it, everybody always has, fighting with their brothers and, fighting my sisters and my brothers. I'm the youngest, so they used to tie me to the table, beat me up and stuff. But what was that like for you guys?
Oh man, it was fun. It was fun, and now that I look at it, I know outside looking in, they would think we were crazy. So our choice of fun was actually fighting each other. We would be in the living room and we'll push all the furniture out the way and create like a square circle or octagon or whatever, and we would take turns like, all right,
Yeah.
you fighting him and you fighting him, and then just go at it, who taps out first or who gives up, who starts crying first. Parents come in, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're just playing. Like, no, that was our fun. So
Yeah.
it kind of sounds crazy, but yeah, that's what we did, and it was always. It wasn't a rare occasion. It was always when we got together. All right, who gonna fight? What we gonna do? Other cousins would come. Even those who didn't participate in combat sports, they'll come over and, hey, you're gonna participate today because that's what we're doing.
Yeah. What was crazy too is like, we used to work together. By the way, audience and Justin, Raul, and Sean. I think Sean had some issues with Wi-Fi, but uh, I think we were talking about boxing like out the blue because I've always been a huge boxing fan, combat sports fan, and working with people, you start to figure out what each other likes, and he mentioned boxing, and we were like talking about fighting, and like we're just going through like everything, and he's like, "Yeah, my cousin's fighting tonight." I'm like, "Your cousin's fighting?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, check it out on ESPN." And his cousin, obviously Andre Berto, and it was crazy because that night I was going to watch some fights, and Berto just happened to be on that night, fighting. I think he was fighting. I cannot remember his name. Tattooed guy, bald, Puerto Rican
Oh,
from New
Luis
York.
Colazo.
Luis Colazo, yeah, Luis Colazo, good, good fighter. He was fighting him that night, I believe, and so I watched that fight that night. I was like, oh shit, there goes Estado's cousin on there. So I thought it was pretty cool. But like, what was it like, because when I said I was a little envious as a fan of your experience, you got to do what every fan would want to do: walk in, hold belts, stand on the apron, and you know be a part of the announcement, and cheering on your cousin, your blood, which is awesome. What was that experience like?
Incredible, incredible. I mean, like me from watching him from the beginning and being in the sport with him, during the amateur times, and us traveling together, and me deciding, all right, let me just pursue my education, not stop for personal reasons, and to see him continue that and be successful and just reach the different heights that all the athletes they dream about reaching. It's been incredible. I could say, with us being so close, each time that he had to fight, each time he had to walk to the ring, we stand in the ring on the apron or whatever, I got the jitters as if I was in there. I was
Yeah,
just so nervous, anxious. I'm just like, man, I need to breathe. So I'm looking at him like I could only imagine how he feeling if I'm feeling like this. So I mean, it's I mean, once in a lifetime. Let me say, like we always watch it on TV, but just to be in there and not just be a fan in the seats, it's just actually feeling the heat coming down from the lights that's hitting the ring. It's completely different.
jeez, man, yeah, that's yeah, it was crazy because I'd be watching that. I was like, "Go Estado up there with the belt," but yeah, I can only imagine how incredible that must have felt, and then like too the emotional attachment to it. So it's like you're there, but then it's like you're there, but then you're thinking about his performance and making sure he's gonna be all right at the end of the day. And I mean, it had to be amazing, the celebrations after the wins, especially when he got the
Oh
belt.
yeah, oh yeah. It was never really even like fathom being there, especially holding the green belt at that. As he was taking the steps, and then
Yes.
he ended up getting the green belt WBC. It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, we talked about it, but did we actually try to feel that? And I don't think we had up until then. So it was incredible.
Yeah, it's one of those when you're in the moment, you can't. It's hard to reflect on it because you're like the nerves are there, but then afterwards, you're like, damn, we were just in there. I was holding the most prestigious belt in the sport for my cousin, my blood, and like person I grew up with. It had to be like amazing. Um, so any like insights that you got? Because like I know there's a lot of things that probably happen behind the scenes in the locker rooms, and I know you've told me a few things that probably most fans wouldn't be privy to. But anything like from a warming up standpoint and like preparation standpoint that goes on in the locker room. Anything that you can say that was crazy? Maybe you saw with other fighters or anything.
Um, it all differs from fighter to fighter. What you would like is for each fighter to be in the locker room relaxed, off their feet, try not to do too much. I personally say be in the zone, but don't think too much into the zone because you can kind of psych yourself out of it by thinking too much into it. So it's like I'd say probably 70% of the game is mental, and we've learned that along the way. Like I just started piecing together. I'm like, man, hey, all these individuals with massive talent. I know what y'all can do because you perform differently when you're sparring, but then when you get in the ring, that mindset kind of changes because the pressure is on. So
Yeah.
it's like in the locker room, it's all right. Sit back, relax, have fun. Just joke, laugh, all of that. Don't think nothing about it. But then as you get ready, like say hour and a half before fight time, all right, now it's time to zone out. Um, Start preparing, slowly warm up. You don't want to get too warm, but you don't want to go out there cold. So you got to find that balance too. Um, some people like watching the fights before them. Some people don't. They like just want to go out there and let me just do my thing. Because watching other people fight and seeing the results of that, like especially if you see one of your homeboys end up losing, or one of your homeboys are getting dropped, and it's like, oh, that could be me. So it's just take it away. A lot of people like to isolate themselves before their fights.
Is there any, because we talk about it all the time, like we're more into the old school mindset of fighting, the old school fighters, like kind of the business of boxing, like fighting the best, always fighting the best, proving that you're the man in your division. Is there anything you would like to see change with today's fighters, like any advice, like up and coming fighters, um, to be, to kind of put them back on that path? Because I think boxing has taken a couple steps back in the last couple of years, mainly because guys aren't fighting each other. The fights that me and you always texting each other like, damn, such and such ain't fighting such and such. Anything that you would say to up and coming fighters, like to that you would like to see from them to put boxing back to where it needs to be, for instance.
Um, Challenge yourself with each fight. Keep challenging yourself. A lot of them want to build up a record. At the end of the day, the record really doesn't mean anything because it's like looking at your record. Who have you fought? You can be 35 and 0, but who were those 35 opponents? Like you can see Lomachenko, he has a low amount of fights, but look at his resume. You
Mm.
a lot of top tier fighters that he went in against. Um, and also tomorrow isn't promised. Oh, we're gonna let it simmer. Let him do his thing.
Yes.
I'm gonna do my thing, and then maybe a year or two down the line, we'll meet. Look what happened with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder.
Still pissed about that.
It's crazy. Tomorrow isn't promised, and it doesn't have the same hype as before. They both were at the top of the games. They both had the belts. They both were undefeated. Now, you true fans would want to watch that. Back then, you would have
Mm.
true fans in the general population who want to watch it just because they're following the hype. So I have to say that don't get caught up in the hype. Just keep pushing yourself. You want to be the best. Test yourself out and fight the best. Even at certain levels. If you may not be ready for a Class A fighter, if you feel like you're a Class C, Class B fighter, fight the top Class C, Class B fighter, and then just keep pushing yourself to work up to the Class A fighter, the champions.
Yeah, and I think the old school fighters, it was they would lose, but they were fighting the best, so it was like they could go back in and fight another top guy. But you know, they would fight, the top guys, but it would be like trilogies. You know what I mean? So they would the money was always there. If the concern is money, the money's gonna be there if you fight the best. That's what I really wish they would understand. You know what I mean? Stop protecting the O and just fight the best. And it's got to be about you proving that you are you're the best in that division. You're the man. I'm tired of battles on Twitter. I'm tired of Instagram battles. I want to see actual physical guys getting in, guys and girls getting in there. The women are doing a fantastic
Oh
job of
yeah,
fighting each other
oh
right
yeah, they're
now.
stepping up.
Um, yeah, I mean, women, the guys could take a cue from the women. They're not scared of losing. They want to fight the top girls in each division. And I wish the guys would do that now, and stop battling on Twitter and taking a lesser opponent. And, it's hurting boxing. It's the sport, we love. We both grew up loving. And I wish it would just come. They would step the game up and put the sport back on the top where it belongs again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
They need to push the politics to the side too. Uh,
that yes,
they need to have their own voice. You know, a lot of times it's as you see in the ring interviews. Hey, who do you want next? Oh, I'm gonna let my team decide on that, and blah blah blah.
yes,
Who do you want next? We didn't ask who do your team, the matchmakers, want next. Who do you want next? You know, it's just having your own
hmm
voice in the game.
yeah. You're right about the politics as well because the sanctioning bodies too is a problem. Too many belts, guys holding up belts, and you're confusing the general public about who the actual champion
Yeah,
is because everybody's holding a belt out
yeah. Interim, regular, super, diamond.
there.
Um,
You name it, they got it.
oh man, who's the
So
real champ? You know, it's
yeah, yeah, because there's never gonna be undisputed because of the matchmaking. So every once in a while, I mean, now I think there's been more undisputed recently, but it's harder to do with all of the different opponents' belts, the the mandatories.
yeah.
But yeah, so with that being said, I want to pass it off to Justin. He has some questions for you as well.
Yeah, so Estado, I know we talked on off camera beforehand. You were just saying that you like kind of trained some fighters like at like an amateur level a little bit.
Yeah.
I was just kind of curious, like, how did you use your experience or your education in like sports science and human performance? How would you use that to help you like create like a conditioning regime for that was perfect for like boxers or fighters?
I mean, it's just with that education, you was able to kind of, no, you was definitely able to decipher what's needed for the sport. Uh,
Right,
Perfect example, and you know, I'm going to keep it real basic. Is you see on TV and video streaming, whatever, you see a lot of boxers. They do a lot of jogging, right? But
right,
then in the actual sport, when someone's fighting, like how much jogging do you think it is that's needed? How much endurance you're going to get out of jogging? With boxing, it's more of an anaerobic than aerobic sport. So all this jogging is aerobic. You're breathing and all and so forth. And the actual sport's anaerobic because everything is explosion. You know, you're sitting there only for a little bit, then you're throwing a number of punches, anaerobic, holding your breath. Ah, breathe. Ah, but as you're jogging, you just control breathing, right? So the two
right,
don't go together. So since my education and me training individuals, yeah, from time to time I'll say, yeah, you can do a little bit of jogging, but your main conditioning will come from sprints because sprints will mimic what you do in the ring of the explosion for what 3 seconds rest, go ahead and sprint again, 3 seconds and rest. Um, I mean, you know, just using that as an example, I think it opened my eyes to a lot. You know, because even when I was training, I'm gonna go run 3 miles. I'm gonna go run 5 miles. But then when it came down to my actual event, I got tired. And now I see why I got tired because I wasn't training how I should be training. I wasn't training my muscles. I wasn't training for the proper type of endurance.
right. So was there like a specific sort of metric that you really wanted your fighters to focus on, like heart rate, for example? Was that like did you focus on it from that perspective, kind of, or was it more just based on like the actual
No,
activity?
it was heart rate. You know, we would establish the resting heart rate, and you know, we want to challenge and push ourselves to try to peak at to a certain extent. And I want to get like, depending where they're at in their conditioning, um, try to get a max heart rate, probably or 85% of it, and rest. I would give them like 45 seconds to 60 seconds, and then let's do it again. And then throughout training camp, they'll see how conditioned they are to do it. Like they end up running 3 sprints, dog tired. A couple of weeks in, because when we max out their the maximum heart rate, then after that time of 3 weeks or so, because the conditioning tends to set in, you'll see that max heart rate decrease for that very same exercise. And that's a sign of them getting conditioned to do that on a continuous basis. So it's just
Right.
it's all numbers to me. That's how I see it. It's looking at the heart rate, tracking the heart rate, where you are with it, how far can you push yourself. You have to make sure you do that because sometimes you can push yourself too much. Um, we can go into nutrition too, where you start seeing dots, blackout, and it was overexertion. So yeah.
Yeah, so like I guess another part of that you kind of were talking about earlier is like with the mindset side of things. So you can help fighters with like the physical side of things with like the sprints and the conditioning, but like what role does like the mental preparation, like what role does mindset play in like a fighter's preparation, and how would you help fighters kind of deal with that sort of aspect, like the pressure of the moment sort of thing?
Um, the approach that I've learned to take was go out there and have fun. Like
Don't
you've
overthink it.
you've done, don't overthink it. You've done all your work in training camp. Now this is the fun. The hard work is in training camp. Um, People always compare themselves. Oh, the person their opponent fought before did this. Now I gotta do better than that. Or coming in as a top prospect or a contender. Okay, I can't look crazy with this opponent. You're putting way too much pressure on yourself. It's just go out there, have fun, do what you know how to do. Do what you do best. You have individuals who I think we spoke off camera about this. You have individuals who are phenomenal in the gym. They'll spar they'll spar the champ in the gym and whoop the champ's ass. But then when it comes down to the actual performance and the event, the lights, all that come up, that mental hit, all these people's watching me. I got to do better. I got to do good, and that performance doesn't even equate to how they've been training in camp for the past 6 weeks. It's like, who is that in that ring? Like, they just fold under that pressure because they overthink it.
So like when you're training a fighter and stuff, like in their training camp, like for conditioning sake, like what kind of do you use any sort of like technology to track the heart rate and things like that, like a Fitbit or like an Apple Watch? Like what kind of stuff do you use? And if you do use anything, what do you like not like about those methods, I guess, for training?
For training, it's not comfortable. I personally tried the Apple Watch. I've tried the Fitbit. I've tried the Jarman Pile heart rate monitor. It's just not comfortable.
Mhm.
Um, it's not what you are accustomed to wearing. It doesn't feel natural. Neither one of the technologies that we've used feel natural, but we want to get that number. But I kind of think it may be skewed because you're not moving how you would naturally move because you have this on your wrist, you have this across your chest, trying to monitor your heart rate.
Interesting. You're saying just for like sparring or for like running too, or just
All,
like any like
all of
all of
it.
it?
All of
Interesting.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, you actually mentioned something earlier that I wanted to ask you about. You were talking about like nutrition. What kind of insight do you try to give fighters in regards to like diet and nutrition when it comes to like training camps and stuff? Like, what role does a nutrition play in helping fighters make weight and then actually perform the best? Like, how do you tell fighters to go about game planning for that?
Game plan. You just have to know which fuel, like micros, macros, nutrients, will fuel your body the best. Um, Old school way of making weight is starving yourself. But now with technology and all of the education that we've come across that we've developed, um, people eat 3, 5 meals a day and still able to make weight because you're monitoring what you're putting in your body and you're making sure it's not junk. You're making sure it's fuel for your workouts that you will deplete. Um, you'll make sure that you're not putting as much as what you're burning. You're burning more than what you put in caloric intake. There's a lot of those factors that play into making weight and also having as much energy as you would need to perform at that peak at the same time.
Right. So I'm curious for you, since you have so much experience being around like boxing training camps and stuff. What do you think are like the biggest challenges that boxers run into, like whenever they're getting into the training camp and stuff. Are the challenges that like an amateur boxer that are common for an amateur boxer, are they the same as like for a professional boxer's challenges, or how are they different?
I think to a certain extent, it depending on the resources that they have. Um,
Right.
Most amateur boxers don't have the resources that pretty established or becoming established professional boxers have. So a lot of them take the old school approach of I'm going to sweat it out. It's all hard work. We're not going to monitor anything. We're not going to develop our fast twitch muscle fibers. Or they don't pinpoint anything. It's just we need to work hard. We need to work on these combinations. We need to focus on what's muscle memory. That's all we need in order to get through these bouts or tournaments. But when you come down to professional, that's when you have to start dissecting it because there's no erasing. Amateur record is not as important as a professional record. So when you hit the professionals, you have to take it serious because there's no going back.
Yeah. So it seems like amateur is very much just focus on the basics and just kind of make the best of what you have, and then as you become more professional, you just that's the more resources you can get. So it's the challenges are just different. It seems like.
Right, and you can
So
tell because you'll see. Honestly, there's been a lot of amateurs who turn pro. You'll see, for example, you'll see two amateurs who've gone through the rankings with each other, one better than the other. One may be ranked number one may be ranked number five. And then as they enter the pro, the roles change because ranked number five now have the resources to better themselves. Ranked number one has the resources, but their natural talent isn't as good as or as number five. So now it's like an even playing field. So I've seen where somebody who was an okay amateur became the champ, and who a person who was number one champ in amateurs became pretty much a nobody. Didn't even make it to a contender simply because of the resources that they have because it was just hard work, hard work. Some of them end up depending on natural talent, athleticism, and the other ones put in the hard work and so forth.
that's fascinating. I never really thought about it like that. How the resources really just make the difference for the fighter.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think Sean has the next couple questions.
Yeah, so I know you kind of talked about, the different technologies as far as, training fighters and stuff like that. Are there any like technologies that you use as far as like weight cutting, like to make sure that a person is either doing a healthy weight cut or like to make sure they're on track with what they should be doing during their weight cut?
A nutritionist. A
Nutrition,
nutritionist will
okay.
come in and just track. It's tracking macros and micros. It's really time consuming. Also knowing an athlete's response to certain nutrients, vitamins that they intake. Some people might be gluten sensitive and not even know it, and which will cause them to digest certain things completely different than a normal person would, or a person who's not allergic or sensitive to gluten. So it's again, you have to break it down and see what works best for that athlete.
Gotcha. And then in your opinion, what areas of combat sports do you think are like the biggest need of improvement or change? Like whether it's, scoring, weight cutting, recovery, like what do you see as the biggest issue in combat sports as a whole right now?
Um, that's a great question. I would say it could be recovery. Definitely recovery. Athletes tend to get hurt. We've seen individuals return way too soon and end up, either ruining their careers or being sidelined longer than they really needed to be because they came back too soon. Um, again, there's technology that'll help with recovering a little bit faster. reducing inflammation. People do the hyperbolic chambers to just for that. People also use the cryotherapy all for recovery. Just so that they can make sure that they're healing properly and not having to go into a bout with any type of injuries. Granted, we do still hear individuals after the match, yeah, I had a shoulder injury, I had my fist or whatever it is, but again, with the resources, people do that.
So before this call, and you've seen a little bit of our technology, and even not our technology necessarily, but technology in general. Are there any concerns that you have when you're using technology as far as like concerns about using it necessarily, or no? Do you feel like you're someone who generally trusts technology and like the benefits that it could have?
I trust technology and the benefits that it will have. I'm always looking into how accurate the results are from the technology. So, like myself, I'll use the Apple Watch. I know it's not accurate, but it gives me a baseline and it kind of tells me what I need to do, what I need to slow down on, and so forth. So, I'm all for technology because without that, we would just stay, stagnant. There's no way, improving and pushing ourselves to the limit.
I very much agree. So then what information would you say is the most important to track during a training camp or during a fight? Like, is there any one metric or thing that you see as this is the key to winning or to getting better? And it doesn't necessarily need to be something that you can track right now, even if it's, just something that from your background or from any of your training that you see is this is something that I've found to be really important.
What's really important is obviously it's endurance, whether it's cardiac endurance or muscle endurance, and it's definitely muscle endurance because you're throwing a lot of punches. MMA, you're throwing a lot of kicks and all. What else? Precision. You don't want to waste punch, kicks, moves, or any of that. So precision, definitely. And what you guys' product, being able to clock how precise someone is, that will go a long, long way. Because you have, I look at fighters who throw massive punches, but then it's how accurate are they? And then you have people who punches and bunches, get through the fight, they're dog tired, and then you have some others who sit back and are so precise, and then they'll hit you with a 3-piece and you're out because it's the precision. They know where they're placing their punches, how they're supposed to be throwing it, the power behind it, and so forth. Perfect example for me is Gervonta Davis. This guy, he knows where to put his punches. His example, this fight, Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz punches and bunches. They're not always landing. He's just going to punch, whatever lands. All right, I'm going to get it. And have his bed move all over the place, but Gervonta take his time. You see his eyes. He's locked in. Boom, boom, placing them. And we saw what happened. So, that's very important. I think that's all I can think of right now. I'm sure it's plenty. If you give me time to think, but there's plenty more I can think of.
And then last question that I have is, how you've seen our technology, you haven't necessarily used it yet, but from what you've seen and what we've explained to you and stuff, how do you think that our technology can benefit a fighter's career individually and then combat sports as a whole?
It'll definitely improve both areas. It'll be no more debate. Just be no more debating. Oh, this person has the fastest hand in boxing or fastest hand in kicks in MMA. How do we know that? We saying it just by our visuals, by our eyes. We don't know that. Oh, this guy's the hardest puncher in the weight class. How do we know that? we don't have the technology. We don't have the data to prove that. But bringing in technology that you guys have, it'll set all that up, and then it'll motivate individuals to, all right, no, I want that title. I want to be branded the man with the fastest hands or who hit the hardest. And so, using that very same technology, they're gonna start training, keep clocking until they try to get reach that goal. So it works hand in hand.
Yeah, we've seen that level of competitiveness when we've brought it to the gym and stuff, and like one guy goes and he hits it hard, and then his buddy goes up and hits it harder, and he's like, hold up, hold up, hold up, I need to go back and try it again, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, this is going to be a groundbreaker. I could see a lot of the athletes taking this, running with it. Man, it's gonna create a new level of performance. It definitely is.
Appreciate that, man. That's what we're aiming for. Sean, I didn't know if you had any other questions.
No,
So,
that's it.
yeah, no, Stato, I want to thank you again for hopping on. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say as well. Any questions you have for us, or anything, or any kind of final words you wanted to give.
No questions, man. I love what you guys are doing. Keep it up. I mean, it's definitely going to be something that shakes the game up big time. Like track, like show stats. HBO had theirs whenever they had boxing. It's just going to change all that up, because I even looked at those type of stats and like, that don't look accurate, but what else?
me, me and you have had those conversations over and over again. Like, man, they say he threw how many punches? No, we watched it. He didn't throw that close to that many punches.
You
Like,
did not. What are you counting as punches? He pushed him off and counted that as two punches because he used it with both fists. Come on, like no.
yeah, we've talked about that over and over. I've even watched video of people slowing down the video, and it's like they're like 20 punches off. I'm like, this guy didn't land 40, he landed 20. Like, where are they seeing this? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
Nah, that's funny because me and him, we have these conversations all the time, like texting each other about the stats and stuff, man. It's funny that you brought that up.
I just be rolling my eyes,
But
and I look
nah,
at it, I just be like, man, what are they talking about? Ain't no way.
the bad thing about it though is that it gives fans the wrong perspective of who actually won. Like, because fight fans, we all of us on our fight fans, we watch the fight and we might have a different perspective of it, and we're always like, well, such and such landed this many punches. I'm like, I don't think he landed that. You know what I mean? But if you're a fan of that guy, you're automatically gonna be like, yeah, he landed more punches, so I think he won the fight.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be biased. You have people who slip punches, but oh no, those connect. I'm like, he clearly slipped that punch, but let's count
Hmm.
it. But yeah, man, this is gonna
Yeah,
be a game changer.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate you always helping out. And I mean, when this thing first started, you were counseling the graduate students that were working on our like MVP version of it. So, anytime I reach out to you, you never say no, man. I always appreciate that. And you're one of the day ones on this project. So always appreciate you and any help that you give. And shoot, we love to have you on the podcast again, talking boxing. I mean, we text about it all the time. Why not have you on here talking about it?
Oh man, I'm here
So,
for it. I'm here for it.
um, so anybody that may want to train with you or anything, or any fighters you want to shout out, like how can people get in touch with you? Like where can people reach out to
They
you?
can reach out me, email me directly. EAALTIDOR@gmail.com. Social is weak, so social media, Twitter at TEEDOE, the number 3. And that's my only presence that I have right now.
Awesome, awesome. Anybody you want to shout out, fighters or anybody like any who's some up and coming fights that you want to see and fighters that you're interested in seeing?
Man, you put me on the boots, and I'm very curious after his last fight, like how would he do with the elite? I still think he would do extremely well. Shout out to Boots. He's one of the entertaining fights. Like man, his talent. He's remarkable. Obviously Javante
That's
Davis.
my guy.
Earl Spence is the dog. He does his thing. And I'm still old school. Like I'll go back to I want to see Andre Durrell do his thing. If he can come back and make one last run at it, we seen Anthony do his win the title twice. I think
Hmm.
Andre is very deserving to get that opportunity. He had a luxurious amateur career, won bronze in the 2004 Olympics. He was well on his way in the pros, and who knows what happened. But if he's still in it, I want to see him do it. Um, and we can't say anything bad about Andre Ward. He came and did his. It may not have been all flashy or whatever, but his technician, man, very sound fighter. Nobody could break the code, even when they thought they had it. That's the man right there with the mental game. He would never let
Yes.
anything crack his mental at all. Nothing shit. You can say whatever you want to say. He can see anything happen to anyone. He goes in there still believing in himself, knowing what he can do, knowing that he's going to execute. Nothing that you can do to stop me from doing what I already have set in my mind. And that's what a lot of fighters do. Obviously, go in, oh, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But then, like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that's what happens. It goes out the window and they just start throwing. At the end of the fights, I've heard plenty of fighters, man, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I should have did this, I should have did that. Andre Ward, never the case. I did it all. And as a result, he did
Yeah.
everything that was in the ring, undefeated, um, multiple weight champion, multiple time champion. Like, it gets no better for that mental stability, mental strength. That guy right there.
Well, I think he had your cousin's trainer. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Virgil.
They had Virgil, and Virgil's a huge motivational type of
Mm-hmm.
coach. So Virgil's not gonna let you lose, like let you lose the mental side of the fight. He kind of always like instills in you, like he's just motivating words in the corner, like instructions, but also motivates you to keep going. And like I love when he tells them, "You're not gonna like yourself in the morning when you wake up if you don't do X, Y, and Z." So
Mm-hmm.
I think he obviously played a big part as well with Ward. But yeah, Ward is fantastic follow on social media, like just student of the game, and I would have loved to see him continue on, but he retired probably at the right point for him. But man, there was a lot of other big fights I would have loved to see him compete in.
Yeah. I mean, he would have to stay around just to wait, allow the others to build up to get to where he is. Him doing so, I think he would have hurt himself because he was already at the top of the game. I think Andre Ward is what 38, 39 right now, so he's older. So waiting for these young bucks to develop to get to his stage would have possibly put him at a disadvantage. So I think he left right in time. Like I wasn't even mad. I'm like, yeah, you did everything that you said you was going to do. You did everything that you wanted to do, and you did some. He did more. Hey, fight Kovalev. He did that. Fight him again. Okay. Like I was supposed to retire after fighting him the first time. All right, I'm going to fight him again. Did that.
Hmm.
He was like, all right, I have nothing else to prove.
True, true. So, but no, I appreciate you again for hopping on, man. We would love to have you on again because like we could go on and on talking about boxing. We text all the time and sending you updates and you sending me stuff. So, but no, I appreciate you being on. Appreciate all the kind words and always looking out for us, man.
It's a pleasure, man. Pleasure. I would love to be back.
All right. Well, with that being said, we want to go in and close out another episode of Built Different Podcasts. And for myself, for our guest Estado, Sean, Justin, Raul in the background, thank you guys for another episode. Come check us out, comment, and like, subscribe. And yeah, be a part of the conversation and reach out to Estado for some training and for some nuggets on the fight game. That being said, we'd like to say peace out to everybody. Have a good week.